So there's a new 20-point plan for Gaza making waves. And you might think its biggest impact would be in the Middle East, right? Well, here's the thing. Its biggest shockwaves are actually hitting right here at home, exposing a deep, growing fracture in American politics. Let's get into it.
And that really brings us to the core question. Is this plan a real shot at peace, or is it more of a political move, one that's actually fanning the flames of division back in the U.S.? Honestly, the answer to that could change the whole game for American foreign policy.
All right, first things first. What kicked this all off? We're talking about a comprehensive new plan that aims to completely reshape the future of Gaza. So, this proposal is a 20-point plan. It's been put forward by former President Donald Trump working alongside the Israeli Prime Minister. And that collaboration right there, well, that alone pretty much set the stage for the intense reactions that were about to follow, both overseas and right here at home.
So what's actually in this plan? When you boil it all down, it comes down to a series of demands that are presented as totally non-negotiable, and they're all aimed squarely at Hamas. What's really telling here is just how clear and absolute these three core demands are. First, Hamas has to completely disarm, no weapons left. Second, Hamas has to totally give up its role governing Gaza. And third, they have to accept a new transitional authority, one that would be supervised by the international community. And look, these aren't suggestions. They're being laid out as absolute preconditions.
Now, as you can probably imagine, a plan with demands that rigid was met with an immediate and pretty forceful rejection from Palestinian leaders.
The reaction was incredibly fast and, pretty much unified. Palestinian factions came out almost universally against the proposal. They're arguing that this isn't some neutral framework for peace. No, they see it as fundamentally lopsided, prioritizing Israeli security way above everything else.
And this quote, wow, it just perfectly captures the gravity of their opposition. The plan isn't just being called unfair, it's being described as an existential threat to Palestinian self-determination. That kind of language tells you that this is seen not as a starting point for talks, but as a direct challenge to their very future as a people.
Okay, so now let's pivot and bring the focus back here to the United States, because the ripple effects from this plan are shining a huge spotlight on a really fascinating and significant shift happening inside the Democratic Party. At the exact same time this plan is being debated, there's a very vocal and growing wing of the Democratic Party that's actively challenging decades of what has been, for the most part, unconditional U.S. support for Israel. This internal movement is really gaining momentum, and its goals look very, very different from the plan we just talked about.
And this really makes that divide crystal clear. In one column, you see the plan's demands for Hamas. It's all about security, control, disarmament. But then you look at the other column, at what this Democratic faction is pushing for. Their focus is completely different. Humanitarian protections, getting aid in without restrictions, and accountability for civilian suffering. The two sets of priorities couldn't be further apart.
So what's driving this change? It's really three main things. First, we're seeing a direct challenge to that decades-long policy of unconditional support for Israel. That's a huge break from the old playbook. Second, there's a much louder call to put humanitarian issues at the very center of foreign policy, not treat them as an afterthought. And finally, and this is so important, this isn't just happening in a bubble. It's reflecting a real shift in public opinion, especially among younger people, who are expressing far more solidarity with the Palestinian cause.
So why should we care about an internal debate within a political party? Well, the bottom line is the implications here stretch way beyond just politics.
This isn't just about political messaging for the next election cycle. What we're witnessing here could be the beginning of a fundamental reshaping of American foreign policy in the Middle East. How this internal debate plays out could really determine the direction of U.S. involvement in the region for a generation. And so, we're left with this huge question. As all these political plates are shifting under our feet, what is the future of U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East? Right now, that future seems more uncertain and frankly more contested than it has been in decades.